Blimey, how did we manage to do that so quick?
Yeah, that's our quickest.
Hour and a
That
half.
is quick, isn't it?
I talked fast.
Well, I didn't play anything, so that really helps.
Yeah.
Well, if you're going to play nothing, we'll have you on again. Hello and welcome to episode 10 of the ugvm podcast. I'm your host Andy Kavanagh, but you can call me deKay, and with me today are Zoe.
I have updated my privacy policy.
Have you?
Yep.
I don't think you're allowed to tell me that under GDPR.
Sorry.
Choobs.
Hello.
Hello. And Luffer.
Hi.
Hello. So episode 10, that's double figures. Although it was double figures last time, but we're not counting the pilot because it was rubbish.
Not an octal, it's not.
Well, no. That would be the kind of thing that would be released on some special edition DVD as an extra. should we ever get to that point. So let's start with some news then. So Biohazard 7, or Resident Evil 7 as we're known to everyone outside of Japan, is coming to the Switch. Only it's not quite coming to the Switch. So I'm sure we all remember OnLive, the game streaming service that didn't
Very
work
good
very well.
service.
Yeah, I have an OnLive console
You
somewhere.
have the console.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I used the service. I didn't have a console.
Yeah, it was great in that it needed a super fast internet connection, but most people still had dial-up, so it didn't really work very well. Anyway, but Biohazard 7 on the Switch is basically that. So it's on the Switch and it's just one game. So you pay 2,000 yen, which is about £15, and you get access to play the game on your Switch via Capcom's streaming servers, but only for 180 days. So you're basically renting a stream of a game for half a year. And I'm not really sure how that's going to work.
That's like some kind of dystopian gaming future, that, isn't it? That's hideous.
Yeah. I mean, the same kind of service already exists on the PlayStation with like PS Now. But I don't know. That's not a portable console, though. So, but by default, the Switch is going to be wireless, which doesn't help with that kind of thing so much anyway. And I'm not sure it's a great way to go, in that companies will start releasing games using this service rather than actually releasing them properly.
Yeah, see that's. I mean, I get that. You know, there's loads of streaming services out there, but they tend to be a bit Netflixy in as much as you pay a flat fee and you have access to the library.
Yeah.
But a single title thing that's just nasty.
Yeah, and also the other services tend not to be for platforms that are mobile by design but don't have mobile internet, but that require an internet to use your feature.
Yeah. Well, Toby off of the podcast, he sent a message which I was going to include in the questions, but it makes more sense to have it here. He says the Switch is a portable console that typically won't have good data access outside the home. Do you think this will work out for them? Well, no.
No.
Yeah, so that's pretty rubbish. I mean, it'll mean the game looks pretty fantastic on the Switch, I would imagine, because it'll be running at whatever the highest possible settings they'll have. But outside your house, no.
So if it's a streaming service, is it actually streaming the gameplay, or is it streaming levels, or?
No. It's literally just streaming the video, and then it sends the controls back. So
then you potentially could have a much better game on the Switch in terms of performance, couldn't you, if you're just streaming the video?
absolutely, that's all it is.
Because you're not restricted to the hardware limitations.
No, it'll just be the PC version. So presumably. So
With added lag.
yeah. Although the news did remind me that a system called Rainway exists. So I don't know if you've seen this, but it's a PC game streaming app, which according to their site, you can play your favourite games on any device, by which they mean in a web browser. And originally there was going to be a Nintendo Switch client coming, but it's gone really quiet on what's happening there, and I can't really imagine Nintendo want it on their system anyway. Apparently they've had meetings with Nintendo, and Nintendo have been positive towards it. I really can't see Nintendo doing that. But it'd be the equivalent of turning your Switch into a Steam Link, pretty much.
Yeah, I love my Steam Link, to be fair. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, I think it'd be good. I just can't see it happening. Without hacking your Switch and running it semi-illegitimately, I can't see it happening on a Switch.
Well, and also presumably, if they were running that service, they'd have to have a Switch for every single stream they were providing to every user.
No, not for this, because basically it was the way Rainway works is you install it on your PC and then you stream your PC game to any device that has a web browser or the Rainway app.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that if you were doing it with your Switch, then they'd have to have a Switch console for every single active stream, would they not?
No. So you you stream it from your own PC
to my Switch.
To your own Switch, yeah.
Okay, sorry, I was...
Yeah,
okay. So
it is literally the same as a Steam Link, pretty much. So, I mean, it sounds great, and I've got a big pile of Steam games that don't get played simply because they're not, in my hand or on the telly, and it would be quite good for that. But considering how well indie games, in particular, have been selling on the Switch, Nintendo must be looking at that and going, "Now there's a load of money there that isn't going to come to us if we release this Rainway app instead, because people are going to buy the cheaper versions on their PC and play those on the Switch, and they'll get none of the money." So. Yeah, I can't see it happening. But anyway, I did look up and see if they've actually made any statements recently, and the most recent one I think was from either February or early March, where they just say, we still intend for it to come out, and that's it. So, yeah, that's not happening, I don't think.
I know something else that intends to come out that hasn't come out, but we won't go there.
The Vega Plus bunny.
I didn't say that.
Did they release the game list? I saw lots of countdowns.
No, right. So somebody released a game list. They didn't release a game list. That's Retro Computers Limited didn't release a game list. Somebody released one that was supposedly leaked. It wasn't leaked. They basically just released the one from the original Vega that came out a few years ago. And then RCL had a hissy fit and decided to basically just pull the console completely again and use this as an excuse to delay it further, which is nice. Not that they need any excuses. And then it was supposed to come out again between the 8th and the 12th, and they were definitely going to send it out, and they were sending out final emails, but they were sending the emails out themselves, not via Indiegogo, because apparently Indiegogo doesn't have the capacity to cope with sending 4,000 emails out. I don't know why that is. The real reason, of course, is that if the emails don't go out via Indiegogo can't prove that they didn't go out.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
This is getting... It's getting a bit like a particularly nasty road accident that everyone's stopping to gawp at on the way past.
Yeah,
it's fascinating. I mean, at some point, surely these guys are going to have to come clean and say, yeah, it doesn't exist. I mean, surely.
Well, Indiegogo gave RCL an ultimatum a few months ago. I mentioned it on the podcast a few months ago, and it's basically they have to come up with something substantial by the end of May. They don't have anything. I mean, why, if this thing is ready to go and the only thing holding it back is a game list or waiting for some backers to give them their email addresses or something along those lines, which are these rubbish excuses to come up with. If that's the only reason, why are there no photos of it? Why are there no videos of it in action? Why haven't they sent it to some of the people who fill the criteria that they keep making up? Nobody has one. So they supposedly had them all ready to ship nearly 2 years ago. But, Anyway, this is all very...
When this does come to an end, we're going to have to finish the podcast because we don't have to just talk about it anymore.
I know. Well, maybe they'll start a new Kickstarter or something instead, and there'll be another console that we can all talk about instead. Anyway, so
the Gizmondo 2.
That's got more chance of happening.
Yeah, at least they actually put something out.
They did, yeah, and that was literally a car crash.
Yes.
Literally an actual car crash. Anyway, so it's being sidetracked by the Vega Plus, as it's always fun to do. But anyway, going back to the Switch news, there is actually another piece of Switch news in that in Japan at least they are releasing a dockless Switch. So basically you get your Switch and you get your Joy-Con and that's it. So you get no dock, no power supply and nothing. And you think,
and you can also choose the colours as well.
Yeah, so I mean this sounds like a good idea, but the problem is they've priced it all wrong. So the dockless Switch is works at about £35 cheaper than a normal Switch, except for the fact that a dock costs about 80 quid.
But the dock is just a bit of plastic, isn't it?
No.
So it's not really 80 quid.
Well, it's more than a bit of plastic. It's actually got a USB-C hub in there, and it's obviously got the HDMI components and stuff as well. And when the thing is docked, it's actually capable of running a bit faster because it's got better cooling and more power and all this kind of thing. But it's the only way you can play it on a TV is with the dock. Okay, there are third-party docks which supposedly are causing large problems for Switches, bricking them and making them go on fire and stuff. So people have stopped buying those for the time being. All Nintendo's fault apparently for not doing properly USB-C compliant components. But there you are. Anyway, so this doesn't come with a dock. So that's kind of it's okay if you want a second Switch, which I might be in the market for fairly soon, especially if Pokemon comes out. But it's only 35 quid cheaper. You'd be better off buying one with a dock and then selling the dock. And people do buy a second dock. They've got two TVs in the house. You know, they want to move the Switch between the two or whatever. And the fact that there are third-party docks obviously means there's a market for buying the docks. And Nintendo sell them separately. So why would you not just buy a normal Switch with a dock and then sell the dock for 40 quid? Just doesn't make sense.
As well as that, I mean, when my lad comes over, he brings his Switch, and there are massive 2-player local video game sessions. And one of the things that's always a problem there is that we can only charge one at a time.
Yeah.
You know, unless you want to, go fumbling about looking for cables and so on. It really is a bizarre kind of choice to make to price it that high.
Yeah. I mean, I think it works out something, I don't know what it is in pounds, it works out something like $235. So probably, 210, 230 quid, 40 quid? I don't know. Don't know what the exchange rate is these days, but yeah, it's not. It doesn't work out much cheaper at all. Certainly not to the extent when you'd have to buy a power supply, you'd have to buy a cable, you might want to buy another dock. It's just, I don't know. Make it cheaper, do that, fine, but not at the price of this.
I'm assuming that the issue here is that it cost Nintendo about 200 quid to make a Switch, and it cost them about 20 pence to make a dock. And it's not the fact that this isn't cheap enough, it's the fact that the dock being sold on its own is so extortionately overpriced.
Yeah, probably.
They would have a massive drop in margin if they were actually to lop 80 quid off the price of this thing.
Yeah, probably. But ultimately it's not good for the consumer. I mean, it might work better in Japan, where apparently most Switches are used almost exclusively handheld, but not over here, I don't think, unless it's substantially cheaper.
I think the kind of peripherals and add-on pricing for the Switch has been like absurd from day one. And
so says the person who bought an Xbox One Elite controller for how much again?
70 quid.
And how much was it supposed to be?
It was supposed to be 130.
Well, there you go then. See.
But you can buy a standard Xbox One controller for about 45, and it's £70 for a set of Joy-Con. It's also £60 for the Switch Pro controller, which is probably the cheapest made official controller I've ever held.
Well, yeah.
So do you think there's a market for a properly handheld Switch, as in a Game Boy Switch, which has the controls baked in, non-removable and slightly smaller?
Non-removable, I don't think would be a good idea, because there's too many games that require them to be removed.
Right.
And that would cause problems. But there's no reason why they couldn't be removable anyway. I mean, the games that don't require them to be removed, you just don't remove them. But I don't think the fact they're removable adds a great deal to the cost, because I would imagine even if they weren't removable, they'd still be Bluetooth or whatever. So I can't see that happening. But there's definitely a market for a Switch that doesn't come with a dock and everything. Just as I said, got to be cheaper.
Yeah.
So
what I would like very much is if they sold a dock that was horizontal instead of vertical.
Yes. Yeah,
kind of a front-loading thing, so it could actually fit into a standard AV unit instead of having to be like hidden behind a TV or something.
Yeah, well, some of the third-party ones are built in that way, or are open-fronted, like the Wii U dock.
Yeah,
which supposedly helps not scratch the front screen and so on as well.
I mean, I'd be fine with that if I was sure it wasn't going to catch on fire.
Yeah, I mean, I was vaguely considering a third-party dock because they were so cheap, but not now, not until something's been sorted out with them, I think. I think the chances of it actually doing anything are quite slim, but obviously there is still a risk with them, so best to leave well alone for the moment, I think. So, and that's all the Switch news. Something which happened, has everybody seen this? I think it was last night or early this morning, the Battlefield 5 trailer.
It had a woman in it.
Very realistic.
I was having a conversation on Twitter with Chris Flynn.
Yeah.
Around this, around some of the imagined hysteria, because there's an.
It's not even imagined. It's not imagined. It's actually all there, all over Twitter.
They are. What people are actually outraged by, like an actual woman with breasts and everything.
Absolutely, absolutely. Notch is saying that it isn't happening, and then a load of people are pointing him to the people that are actually making it happen. So,
oh, Jesus.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Everybody's friend Notch. Yeah, but I don't understand what everybody's concerned about. Well, not everybody, but a lot of people are going, "Oh, it's not historically accurate because there's a woman in it." Have you not seen the rest of the trailer?
People seem to be more.
Problem. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, people seem to be more concerned about the fact that it's a woman and therefore it's historically inaccurate, neglecting to observe the fact that said woman also appears to have a prosthetic robotic arm. I'm
not even concerned about that. I mean, it's not really. It's more like some kind of barbecuing equipment. But no, it's more. The action comes at you constantly. The whole game can't be like that. You'd be exhausted after 10 minutes. But and there is no way this is historically accurate. I mean, 1 second they're in a house, and then a tank drives through the house, and then people fall out of aeroplanes, and then a bridge collapses, and then there's more tanks, and then a car falls off a bridge, and then just Germans materialise out of nowhere, and I just no. I
quite like the way they show this pre-rendered video of what the game could be like, and then slap a user interface on top of it, so it look like it's in-game footage when it clearly isn't.
No, it's much. I mean, I haven't played many Battlefield games. I think Battlefield 4 is the only one really I've played to any degree, but it's so much faster paced than that. I mean, that was. I mean, I know it depends how you play, but that was a lot more hide and seek, and this is just constant like. Set piece after set piece after set piece of explosions and crashes and people being shot and then dodgy Cockney accents. It's brilliant. But to be unrealistic because it has a woman in it, no, you've missed the rest there, definitely. But it looks good. But I can't see it being actually like it looks at all to actually play.
No, well, they are often quite crazy. They did the whole like Levolution thing. Battlefield 1, that was really historically accurate as well. You could like jump out of airships, and that kind of thing.
Yeah. But if the game was that intense all the way through, would it actually be fun to play?
No, as I was saying, it'd be exhausting, wouldn't it? Yeah. You'd have nothing. And where's the story if it's like that constantly? I mean, it's not going to be literally. It's just a show reel of fantastic effects, and it does look very pretty. And unlike virtually every other soldier war game, it's got colours in it instead that aren't grey and brown. Yeah.
Maybe the woman in the trailer is Russian or French.
No, she's English. She's quite definitely
she's English.
Oh yeah, you can tell she's English because she has a dodgy British accent, and she's carrying a cricket bat that's wrapped in barbed wire.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that would certainly set her out as being English.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, or a very, very clever spy.
Has anyone mentioned to any of these people that this is a video game and not actually real life?
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, but they've tried. Yeah. But
I think.
Yeah, I don't believe it.
I'm not excusing it for 1 second, but I think a lot of the outrage has come from the fact that they proclaimed it was its most historically accurate game that they were going to produce, and it clearly isn't that at all.
I don't know. It could still be. I mean, the others weren't that historically accurate, were they?
Not really.
No.
I think if Battlefield 1 had been historically accurate, it would have just spent 2 months sitting down a hole waiting for something to happen.
Yeah, probably. It did have capes, though. I didn't see any capes in this.
Yeah, that's a shame.
Didn't have enough horses.
No.
It's a downgrade, really.
Yeah. Oh, well. Anyways, that's all the news that I'd like to mention. Zoe, have you got some?
I've got some, although none of it's really news. It's mostly just anecdotal observances. It's E3 nearly. We might actually do another one before E3. We might not, but either way, it gives me a chance to say, "Yay, E3's coming! Can we all get hyped now?"
Is there anything to get hyped about for E3?
Probably not. I've booked 2 days off, so I can stay up till 4 a.m. watching Sony's conference.
See, I used to do that about 10 years ago, and then I just gave up because nothing ever interesting happened.
Well, Metroid Prime 4. Super Smash Brothers.
I booked a day off and stayed up till 4 a.m. for the night of the Shenmue 3 announcement, and I was very glad I did that, even though it'll probably never come out.
It will. It's just been delayed until next year, like I think I might have mentioned before they announced it. But,
Walmart Canada accidentally leaked most of the games last week.
But did they, though? Did they really?
Well, they seem to.
Or they pulled them out of nowhere, maybe. But yeah. What did they leak then? Because I didn't see.
Well, the I think a lot of people, myself included, looked at the list and went, "Oh, they all seem believable, apart from Rage 2, which obviously isn't going to happen. They've just made that up, so this can't be a real list." And then the next day, the developers of Rage 2 said, "Oh yeah, it's coming out. You weren't meant to find out like this," which has given the list a lot more credibility all of a sudden. But there's things like a new Splinter Cell, which has been long rumored since. They had, is it Michael Ironside, who does Sam Fisher's voice, was in doing some bits for Wildlands. There was some other stuff. None of it was particularly revolutionary and interesting.
Yeah.
But there were a few bits and pieces.
But the other thing Rage 2 being leaked kind of presents is the question, why? Why in God's name is that even a thing?
Oh, why not?
Yeah, but then why was Prey 2 that wasn't Prey 2 but Prey? Why was that a thing? Why did that happen?
We're in the end days, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Prey 2 was meant to happen, wasn't it? And then it got cancelled.
Yeah, but
after the original Prey was already 15 years late.
Yeah, but the Prey that came out, well, I say recent, is like a year old, 2 years old, maybe even, I don't know. But it's not really anything to do with the original Prey, is it? I think maybe the aliens are the same, but there's no continuation of plot as far as I'm aware, is there?
I don't know. I've played through the first one. I do have the new one, but I've not made a start on it yet. I'm waiting because I hear it's got some performance issues on a regular PS4 for a PS4 Pro, which leads me on to my next thing, which may or may not end up being connected to E3. PS4s have disappeared. No, PS4 Pros have disappeared almost entirely.
Have they?
Yep. They've
been raptured, or you just can't buy one?
They released a FIFA 18 bundle around Christmas. And then about 2 months ago, the last of the stock of that appeared to dry up. They released a white special edition God of War one with God of War, which had a custom design. That all went in about 2 days. And apart from those God of War ones, there haven't been any PS4 Pros in the entire country for about 2 months.
The PS4 Pro, that's the one that does 4K, isn't it?
Yeah. Until yesterday, when Amazon got a few, and Tesco got a few, and Smith's got a few, but I think they've all gone now. Yeah. But nobody's doing any bundles because they're just so thin on the ground, and Sony just hasn't been supplying anybody for months. And but they've said they definitely won't be announcing any hardware at E3. But I can't begin to understand why they'd just be turning down all of their money unless they were kind of killing production because they're bringing out a new model, be that with improved specs or just a bit cheaper to manufacture. But they don't seem to be making them.
I don't know, maybe there'll be another special edition encompassing some game they're going to announce or some game that will come out around about E3, and they just sold out of the other ones a bit sooner than they expected. I don't know. They did actually reduce the price. A lot of places were reducing the price of the Pro to there was some selling it for 270 quid, something like that, with a bundle not that long ago.
There were quite a few price drops, and then but now they've become so hard to find that everybody, the people that did get them in yesterday, are just selling them at RRP with no bundle options available. Yeah. Because prior to that, people were selling second-hand ones on eBay for 100 quid over retail price.
Well, Amazon have one in stock for £550. Should I buy it and put it on eBay?
No, I'm going to go with no.
Yeah, I'd say no.
Yeah, I did read yesterday that Sony had been pretty disappointed with the uptake of VR as well.
Yeah.
That it's not been doing terribly good. So I wonder if all these things are connected in some nefarious way.
Well, they can't be disappointed with how Pro's selling because they're selling as many as they're making.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of annoying because I decided I was going to join in the 4K thing. Got myself a nice new TV with more Ks and more HDRs, and then there was nothing to buy to plug into it. So I've ordered an Xbox One X, but I won't get that till next week.
So that kind of ties into one of the things I had, which was the PS4 entering its end of life cycle, which whatever that means, which is what they announced recently.
Yeah, I don't know what that means because it's clearly got at least another year, another 18 months, if not 2.5 years until the replacement.
Well, in their own statement, they said they weren't looking. Well, it was a 3 years until the next console was hinted at, something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then it normally continues for another few years beyond that.
I wouldn't say really that the PlayStation 3 has properly ended its life cycle yet. I mean, the fact that you still get games for it on PS Plus kind of shows that to at least a degree. They're still supporting it.
It just seems a very weird message to send out, because why would Sony come out and say the PS4 is entering its end of life, so now no one's going to buy a PS4, assuming that presuming a new console is going to be coming out, and it's not. Yeah. So surely they're just killing their own sales for no reason if they have no intention of releasing a new console.
I wonder if it's just the guy at the conference didn't get his words out quite how he expected to. Maybe he meant the next phase rather than the last phase, or something like that. Or maybe he shouldn't. The way it came out sounded like, well, that's it, it's the end of it, rather than, it might be the last phase, but the last phase is going to be 5 years long.
Unless he meant that they are going to be phasing out the PS4 base and the Pro is going to become the new standard model until the 5 comes out. Yeah,
that sounds sensible.
That could be possible, but they'd have to be making some PS4 Pros,
yeah.
Not?
Yeah. Well, they also announced yesterday, earlier this week, that they are ceasing production on physical Vita games in Europe and America. So they're closing down all the factories. So maybe they're just getting out hardware.
There were still factories making video games?
Yeah, I think Sony are going to be the new Sega. They've given up on hardware.
They're also not going to be providing Vita games as part of a Plus subscription.
No, that's from next February, is it?
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Well, they've given them all away now anyway, so there won't be any left.
Yeah, just about.
Yeah. Although, having said that, Stardew Valley came out on the Vita this week.
It did.
Yeah. So,
they haven't given out away Danganronpa 3, which, if they do that, I'll be happy. In fact, I don't think they've given away any of the Danganronpa games, which they should.
Yeah. Well, they may well do yet. Have they given away Persona 4 yet?
No.
Oh, because I'm surprised they haven't with that, because they've reduced it in price so many times. It's been like £3 most of the time now. I'm surprised they haven't given that away for free.
I bought it for about £3 on a random impulse, and I'm very, very glad I did. But yeah, it seemed very silly cheap.
Okay. Choobs, then. You any news?
Yes. The big one for me in the last week or so has been the announcement of Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate coming to Switch, which is basically a localization of Monster Hunter Double Cross.
Kiss Kiss.
Which has been out Kiss Kiss, which has been out in Japan for a while now.
Yeah.
Personally, I think it's a swan song of traditional Monster Hunter.
Yeah.
It brings together lots of towns and lots of areas from right the way through the franchise. It has a massive monster roster. There's something like 96 large monsters in it.
Okay.
Vast numbers of quests, and obviously it has G rank stuff in there as well now. So it really is the kind of ultimate culmination of all the Monster Hunters that have gone before, which suggests to me that I think Monster Hunter World is probably going to be their model going forward. I think this is quite possibly the last traditional Monster Hunter we're going to see.
Probably.
Which is a bit sad.
World ended up appealing to people who played the old style Monster Hunters and new people who've come to the series for the first time with World. So it's not really surprising it's gone that way. I mean, we did mention before it came out, we'd have to see how it went as to which direction they wanted it to go in, and it is quite clear the fact that it has been so massively selling that that's where it's going to go. I wonder now, given the Resident Evil streaming thing, whether they may, if that does well, may use similar technology to stream Monster Hunter World to the Switch as well.
Yeah, I mean that's a possibility, because certainly the best thing that happened to Monster Hunter was moving on to the PSP and then the 3DS and going portable. The game is just so well suited to that type of specifically local multiplayer. But it's great to see it coming, and it really is. I've had spent a fair bit of time on the Japanese version. Fighting with menus and translations, and it's not easy, but it's a seriously solid title, so I'm really quite excited for it to be appearing localized. Another good thing is that obviously you can actually import your save across from the 3DS version, which is nice.
All right.
So for people who are maybe halfway through Monster Hunter Generations, they can just stop on the 3DS and pick up the same place on the Switch, which is quite nice, really.
Well, that'll probably push more people to buy it then.
Yeah, I think it will, and it might. There's a few kind of fairly prominent Monster Hunter streamers who have been doing special Monster Hunter Kiss Kiss streams specifically for Monster Hunter Worlds players to kind of highlight differences, and there does seem to be a bit of interest. So, you never know.
Yeah.
I mean, they may keep that franchise as the handheld version. Personally, I don't think so. I think this is going to be the last of the kind of traditional style ones.
Yeah.
Another thing that's been announced is No Man's Sky on Xbox One, and the addition of multiplayer after people bleating on about it forever, which I'm not going to get into. But that's going to be interesting to see what it adds, because as you'll know from the kind of the history of No Man's Sky since release, they've pushed out some pretty vast updates which have really completely changed the game,
and they've all been free as well.
And they've all been free. Now, whenever there's been updates come out, the big headline thing which has been in the update has generally always been the least interesting thing that's there. For example, when they added the base building stuff, there was a whole pile of mission structure that went into supporting the base building part of it as a kind of tutorial, but that in itself provided a lot more kind of avenues for exploration and finding out new stuff even without doing any of the base building.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of hoping that adding the multiplayer will add a whole pile of new mechanics which will allow us to get more fun while ignoring the inevitable stream of 8-year-old teabaggers who are going to descend on it from a great height.
Absolutely. I think it's worth mentioning that all the stuff that's coming to the Xbox One version is also being put back into the PlayStation version as well. So there should be a free update for that to put all the multiplayer, the proper multiplayer, as some people are saying, into the game there as well. And I think I might go back to it now. I mean, when it originally came out, bought it straight away, spent 125 odd hours in it, only finished it because I had a queue of other things to play, but enough time's gone by now. I think I might go back and see all the changes and stuff. So
it's still a really, really solid title. My personal feeling is that the one thing it doesn't need is multiplayer, but it was so much of an issue at launch that I guess the Hello Games just really didn't have a choice. They had to do it.
Yeah.
But it'll certainly be interesting to look at it.
So, Luffer.
Hi.
Star Trek Bridge Crew.
Yes.
So somebody at work pointed me at a funny video on the internet of some people playing Star Trek Bridge Crew, which is a VR, Star Trek Bridge simulator multiplayer thing. You all take a different role on the bridge, and then you go on missions and stuff. Anyway, so this video of people playing it very badly, and I thought it was quite funny, and then I sent it to you because you'd mentioned something vaguely similar before. Stage 9, I think it was. Yes,
Stage 9, the virtual recreation of the Enterprise.
Yeah, so I understand you probably didn't see the videos, and not as funny as I did, but have you played the game?
I have. It's a fantastic game.
Yeah.
And I am equally as excited and dismayed about the upcoming update. It's got the Enterprise in it, so fantastic, amazing, brilliant. But it's not coming out on PC because it's a timed exclusive.
Right.
So that's really disappointing. So everyone that I play with is on PS4. They're all going to get it in a couple of days and play all the games, and I'm not going to join them for another 2 months, by which time they'll have moved on to something else.
Right. So it's cross-play then, so you can play it at the moment on the...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, with the existing game, you can play on PS4 VR and HTC Vive and the Oculus Rift, and you can all play the same game with each other at the same time. And you can cooperatively do the missions, and it's brilliant because one person takes the role of the captain, another one's at the helm, another one's at engineering, and you all have to work together to achieve the mission objective. But as I say, this new update, which brings the Enterprise Bridge, is coming out on the PlayStation 4 this month, in a few days, I think. But we don't get it on PC for another 2 months, so that kind of kills the whole co-op side of multi-platform gaming side of it.
Yeah, that doesn't seem... Yeah. I can understand them having exclusivity when there's no cross-play, but, yeah, you're just No, you're just stopping people from playing it otherwise, aren't you, really?
Indeed. But it does sound like a really good expansion because, it's, as I say, it brings the Enterprise Bridge crew, so you're going to have all the next generation stuff that goes with that, so like the LCARS menus and all that goodness.
Yeah.
And it also brings in new enemies. We've got the Borg are being introduced, the Romulans are being introduced. They've also changed changed it around a bit because in the current version with the J.J. Abrams bridge, and it's the original series bridge, you have an engineer role on the bridge. But the new one, they've got rid of the engineer role and they've replaced it with an ops position. Yeah. So you've got someone at ops, and that's kind of like a whole different mini game on its own, apparently. So that all sounds very exciting. I'm quite looking forward to it when I eventually do get to play it. Yeah. I'm just not sure who I'm going to be playing it with at the moment, because when I do play it with is on PS4.
Yeah. It looks an awful lot of fun, and terribly complicated.
It looks more complicated than it is, I must say. And you can play it with NPCs. They will fill in the roles that you haven't got actual real players playing, but you don't get the full experience unless you're doing it fully cooperatively with all 4 people on the bridge working together. Yeah. I mean, one of the best things about it is that you don't know all the information necessarily. So the captain obviously knows the mission objectives, but the person at ops doesn't know the mission objectives. I mean, the captain can tell them, or the captain can keep it to himself and just give orders. So you can kind of play it as secretively, or as what's the word? Structure. You can use the structure of the crew as much as you want. Yeah. Well, they did good. So I'm looking forward to it.
Has it been out a while? Because I mean, I've seen about it, but to be honest, I just thought it was some PC game. I had no idea it was VR. I had no idea it was on the PlayStation 4. I had no idea that you actually, did proper missions and stuff like that. I thought it was basically you sit on the bridge and it just simulates that. I didn't realise there was an actual game there either.
No, there's a whole game in there, and it's got there are set missions in there which you can play through. I can't remember exactly how many. There's not a huge number. I think there was about 7 or 8 different missions. Maybe not been that many. I can't remember. But there's also like I can't remember what they called it. It's like a procedural version where it just makes up missions on the fly. So you kind of had endless replayability, but obviously it was restricted into what you could do on that. But I forgot what the original question was now.
That was the question, basically. What was it like?
Yeah, it's really good. It's a lot of fun.
Okay, so do you have any other news?
Well, the NES Classic is coming back. It's on pre-order now on various websites, and I believe it's going to be £50.
It looks
it's available from June the 29th.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we need to rush and all buy them straight away, or whether we're going to have much more availability this time. We'll have to wait and see.
I would imagine there will be the availability now, and I'd imagine CEX are probably kicking themselves a bit for stockpiling so many to try and sell at £150 a pop.
Yeah, because the SNES one is still available, isn't it? That never kind of dried up like the original one did.
No, not really. I think they produced a lot more of them. I would imagine it probably would have been a bit more popular because generally the Super NES games were a bit better than the NES ones. Generally, certainly the more the ones that play just as well now as they used to were anyway. But so did you see they're making another Famicom Classic though? Not there's a second one. So it's basically it's the same hardware, but it's got a load of show and jump games on it.
Oh right, yeah.
So they're all pretty much games that only ever came out in Japan. Stuff based on anime and manga and things. A lot of things I haven't heard of at all, but I presume they've just, when they've ramped up the production again, they've just got a section of them doing those, and then they've obviously released some more in the West as well.
Maybe worth mentioning that the rumour mill has been busy. These guys who spend all their lives scrutinising patent applications from people.
Yeah.
Allegedly, Nintendo have just filed a trademark for an N64 Mini.
Yes. I don't think it's specifically an N64 Mini necessarily, though, is it? I think it's just they're renewing N64. Yeah. There are other suggestions that it might be because the games may be coming to the Switch, and they're being packaged for the Switch. Although it's just as likely that they're coming out as a Mini, I suppose. But supposedly the hardware, because the hardware in the NES Mini and the SNES Mini is the same hardware. And that hardware is probably not up to the task of emulating Nintendo 64 games properly, so it would be different hardware. I mean, it may well be similar, but so it's possible it might be Switch stuff as well. I don't know, but then a lot of it's just speculation. And
Yeah.
Nintendo often stick a load of stuff in to patent just to cover their backs and to tease people, I'm sure.
Well, I've got my NES Mini pre-order in as of yesterday, so that can sit in a sealed box next to my SNES Mini in a sealed box.
Good.
Yes, we need to rush out and pre-order them right now so that we can dry up the supply, inflate the price, and then have them be available again in another 3 months, and everyone loses money.
Yeah, apart from Zoe.
Well, I didn't intend to sell it.
No. I don't know. I was kind of interested in getting one originally, but I just do on a Raspberry Pi. I'm not really too fussed about the hardware itself, really.
Well, that's it from me for news.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much all the news. Play! So who should I pick to go first? Let's choose Choobs.
Oh, well, I did have a little list of things that I've been playing that I was going to talk about. But then I remembered at the 11th hour one wonderful thing that I played through last week, which is a little indie game called Yorkshire Gubbins. And I remember it because it's got my name in it.
Yep.
Mr. Yorkshire. It's a thing of just exquisite beauty. It's produced by a little one-person dev team.
Team of one?
Yeah.
Okay.
A little
There's no I in
dev team
team.
of one. Well, although the person in question does get in various voice actors and so on, so technically I guess that's kind of a team.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a point-and-click adventure with lovely pixely graphics, and it has vampires, witches, TV celebrities, slug people, and robots. And it's
Historically
set in
accurate,
Yorkshire.
then.
Yeah, just it's the guys behind Battlefield 5, I think, wrote the script.
Is
But,
there a woman in it?
Yes.
Oh, well, there you go then.
The protagonist is a woman
Oh, no.
Um,
Complaints.
who, in true Yorkshire fashion, did something terrible at her best friend's wedding, and now has to make amends by dealing with all these nefarious characters. It's an episodic point-and-click adventure. It's just the tutorial and the first little mission that's out at the moment. You can pick it up on Steam for pennies, and it is totally worth it because the voice acting is superb, and it's a really long time since I've actually sat and just laughed at a video game.
Oh, good.
It's magnificent, and single person sitting just doing this thing, and it's just great. So Yorkshire Gubbins, I can highly recommend.
Is it authentically Yorkshire, like right proper Yorkshire?
Yes,
Good.
it is. Well, it is for my jaded ears, because obviously, not being from Yorkshire myself, you can possibly tell that. It sounds like what I imagine Yorkshire people sound like.
So you're being mildly racist now as well. Brilliant.
Does it sound like me?
Hope not.
Sometimes, yeah. Some of them do.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, totally recommend that. It's great. It's very short, but it is episodic. Mainly though, I've been playing a couple of games from pretty much the same genre. Frostpunk and Judgment Apocalypse Survival Simulator, both for PC, and they're both city builder games. They're both under the 20 quid mark, and they're both outstanding, but in different ways. Frostpunk is the more polished of the two. Jaw-droppingly beautiful visuals. It's a kind of post-apocalyptic. The world has basically ended at the tail end of the 19th century, and everyone's trying to eke out an existence in a frozen wasteland.
Another historically accurate game.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You have a massive furnace that you have to keep feeding while building your city. It's a bit like Dwarf Fortress in that you don't have direct control over any of your little guys. You have to keep them alive. You have to keep them. The two main stats that are in the game are kind of hope and happiness, which are just insanely difficult to balance. You can change the mechanics of how the game works by enacting various laws. So there's a little bit of kind of Crusader Kings style kingdom management going on there as well. But all wrapped around an absolutely solid city builder game. I've put about 20-25 hours in there so far, and really feel like I'm scratching the surface just and no more. It is brutally difficult though.
Yeah.
So you expect that you're going to die a lot before you actually get the hang of how things work. The second one, Judgment, is very much from the indie camp, and although it is, again, post-apocalypse, except it's a demon invasion this time rather than an ice age.
I'm kicking when they're down.
Yeah, that's the one. And you start out with two hikers who are in the woods when the apocalypse happens. So you're, rather than starting out with a basis of technology, you're starting out from scratch. But with this one, rather than taking the kind of macro management aspect and, just doing everything from a distance, you can actually explicitly command individual members of your little gang, all of whom also have stats and inventories and, preference queues for the type of jobs that they're willing to do or not do. So it's very, very much more in depth from a micromanagement point of view. And it also has some rather nice real-time combat going on in it as well. So it's kind of a SimCity meets Age of Empires type thing. Certainly for well under 20 quid, it's well worth a look. So that has been my last week or so, has been in Worlds building joy.
Good. You played anything else?
Yep. A bit of Fire Emblem Warriors and Hyrule Warriors. I've been comparing and contrasting.
So which do you prefer?
That's a really difficult question, because despite them looking and feeling very, very similar, they really play like really different games.
Absolutely, yeah.
The little strategic element that's in Fire Emblem Warriors that you think, this is just being bolted on to sit well with the franchise, it really hasn't. It will win or lose the map for you.
Yeah, you have to be very careful about the weapon triangle when you're choosing your characters for the mission. The story mode is slightly different because you're mostly forced into which characters you use, but in the the history mode, you do have to pay attention to. You make sure you don't send any of your Wyvern characters in if there's a load of archers, that kind of thing. Otherwise, you're just going to get slaughtered, even if you're on a massively higher level. You've got to be careful with that. Like some of the really powerful characters, like Tiki, her magic and turning into a dragon is really powerful, but she's useless against so many different characters. So you have to be careful with that. So there's an awful lot of tactics in it. But then on the other side, Hyrule Warriors doesn't have that so much, but it's got the big bosses, and you have to be much more careful with your actual fighting. There's a lot more dodging, a lot more looking for cues, a lot more wearing them down. You don't need that so much in Fire Emblem. So they look exactly the same. In fact, some of the levels are almost clones of each other. Asset reuse all over the place, and some of the characters have similar move sets and stuff as well. But they've taken the same idea and they're just totally different. Yeah,
they are totally different. I mean, what I've been finding is that Hyrule Warriors I've mainly been playing in my lunch break, because I can pick it up and blast through a map, and it's fast paced, it's action, it's all, it's a great game. Fire Emblem Warriors though, I'm sitting on the sofa in front of the TV concentrating on the bugger. Because it's not forgiving at all. You really do need to think your way through. So they're very different games. Much though I love Zelda, I think I'm going to agree with you, deKay. You're not wrong today. I think Fire Emblem Warriors is the better game.
I think it is. I mean, I've not played the Switch Hyrule Warriors yet, but there's just a bit more to it. It's a bit more, I don't know, not more fun, but more in depth, a bit more challenging.
It's more involving.
I
don't. My Wii U is currently with my daughter, so I don't have it for a direct comparison. But I get the impression that Hyrule Warriors has an awful lot more going on screen than it did on the Wii U.
Quite possibly.
There are vast numbers of enemies involved. I did notice a bit of slowdown that I mentioned to you. In some of the cave sequences where there was a lot of lighting effects.
Sure. Now, I don't know. In Fire Emblem Warriors, you get the option when you start of having it locked to the frame rate or unlocked. One of them is basically pretty or stable, I think, are the options pretty much.
You don't get that in Hyrule Warriors.
They not move that over, because that possibly might be the reason then.
It's maybe an option. I shall investigate and report back. Lastly, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, which I've been really enjoying. I've been dipping into it here and there. It's vast. I have they have fixed some of the interface issues that the first one had, and certainly the 3DS one had.
Yeah.
In as much as you can actually see what's going on now. But I am waiting for some way to turn down the combat speech because it is driving me insane to the point where I can't play it.
There's too much of it, or it's too slow, or it just stops the action.
There's too much of it. The problem is that there is a volume slider, but it doesn't seem to do anything. And every character, and bear in mind, if you've got a party of 3, each of whom has a blade, you've got 6 characters all on screen doing things, and every time they make a move, they shout out the move they're making.
Oh, right.
And you can imagine what that sounds like.
Yeah. So,
yeah, I need to investigate that further. It's possibly just me being incompetent and old, because, I am very old. So, I won't hold that against it just yet. But yeah, that's been my last couple of weeks.
Good. Okay. Zoe, what have you been playing?
I've been playing God of War more, and I finished God of War, and it's very good. Okay. I stand by what I said before. I rank it 4th of the 7.
Yeah.
And it's not really a God of War game. It's very different, although it does, as you said, turn a lot more into a God of War game.
Yeah.
Once the thing happens with the things.
Yeah. So you knew which bit I was talking about then?
Very much so.
So it's Dad of War.
Yeah, Dad of War.
Yeah.
The camera is just too close.
Yeah.
And there are bits in battles when you get surrounded and you can't spin around quick enough. And the old ones with the nice big panned out camera, you knew exactly what was around you all the time. You could roll around and just slash everything in sight. But that's all long gone. I am interested to see where they take it. I'm not wholly sold on the open worldy bits. There was like revisiting the same areas lots and lots of times. It started to get a little bit samey, but I quite enjoyed the story, the dialogue, the characters were fairly well realised. It was interesting. There were a few odd things, like the complete absence of NPCs. I mean, I know that it's not meant to be kind of like a Witcher-style world, but in the old God of War games, when you were in like the cities and they were all burning, like random characters would be jumping out of windows and running down the street. In this, apart from the main story characters and generic zombie enemies, there literally isn't a single character in the whole world, and it's odd that you just never see anyone. You kind of think like, who is living here? There's Kratos' house and then all of these cities, but apart from the witch, the dwarves, and all of the baddies, there aren't any people. So I don't know who lives there, but it's good. I would recommend it. Everyone should play that.
Okay.
I have made a start on Batman: The Enemy Within. I am 2 episodes in. Seems pretty good so far. It's fairly different to the first one.
It carries on from the first one, though, presumably.
It very much carries on from the first one. You're asked if you want to import your save the data from the first one. The Enemy Within refers to the fact that you're effectively, it's not really a spoiler because it's the core theme of the plot, you are infiltrating the enemy groups, so you are kind of working alongside the baddies, Joker and Harley, etc. And they're trying to get an inside on their job to find out what's happening. 2 episodes in, quite like where that's going. And then a couple of PSVR ones. Wipeout VR, I've only done a few races. That's really good. It's very fast, it's very trippy. And it's in first person, and playing Wipeout in first person is a bit strange. I've never really... with car games, I tend to always go for the cockpit cam, but in Wipeout, I'm always on the rear camera, so being inside is a bit strange, but yeah, it's a very good VR tech demo.
Has it got the tracks from the previous Wipeout games only now in VR, or are they VR designed ones?
No, so it's the Omega Collection, which is HD 2048 and Fury, but the whole game is now playable in VR.
Oh, right.
So it's literally just, it's not just a VR spin-off mode, the entire game is now playable as VR.
Oh, right. Surely that would... I don't know, because of the third-person view previously, surely the tracks would now be a lot harder, because they were designed to be able to see quite a distance into them because you're moving so fast and all that kind of thing. If you're much lower down and you're actually in the cockpit with a more restricted view, surely that just makes it much, much harder.
You seem to be pretty high up.
Oh, right.
But you get a more, because you're playing in 3D, you have a better idea of depth and how far away things are.
Oh, I suppose, yeah.
So it does work quite well in that regard.
Yeah.
But it's definitely harder. I mean, I've done 3 or 4 races maybe, but I tried one of the zone modes. The zone mode is the one where you don't have to accelerate yourself. You just keep going round laps over and over and over again, getting progressively faster and progressively faster until you blow up. And it's basically just how long can you stay on the track without destroying your shield.
Presumably first to fast corner.
Yeah, so I was getting kind of like 50 zones. There's normally about 3 zones per lap, so getting quite far. I was getting between kind of zone 50 and zone 70 playing in 2D, and I got to about 25 in VR before everything just started bashing off walls and I couldn't really maintain control. So it's a lot harder, but it might become easier once you're used to it.
All right.
And as of a few hours ago, I finished Until Dawn Rush of Blood, which is a bit like Prey. Has absolutely nothing to do with Until Dawn apart from the fact that they put the words Until Dawn in front of the title.
Okay.
So if you've played Until Dawn...
Nope.
Okay. Well, you should play Until Dawn because it's quite good. Okay.
Tell me about Until Dawn then.
So Until Dawn is a kind of heavy rain style choose your own adventure thing. Mm-hmm. Except it's a really, really cliched B-movie set with a load of teenagers in the woods with very bad things happening. And it kind of happens over the course of about 10 hours. You kind of will switch control between each of them for a chapter, and then all or some or none of them can still be alive by the end of it. Okay. But unlike Heavy Rain, it isn't trying to take itself seriously. It's trying to be a stupid kind of slasher teen B-movie, and it does a very good job of it.
Okay.
And what platform is that on?
That's on PS4. And
that's PS4 as well.
I'm pretty sure it was given away on PS Plus about 6 months ago.
I'm pretty sure. I have seen it, just no interest. I just assumed it was something like... kind of Resident Evil or something like that. So just
yeah, no, not at all.
No. Is it frightening?
There's a few jump scares, but it's a bit too camp to be truly frightening.
Right. Okay.
But it's worth a playthrough if you're at all interested in the kind of like linear choose your own adventure types.
Yeah.
If you just kind of like imagine Life is Strange crossed with urban legend. Yeah. That kind of thing.
So how is Rush of Blood different to that then?
So it doesn't have any of the characters. Indeed, it doesn't appear to have any characters. And it's an on-rail shooter, literally an on-rail shooter. You are in a minecart for the whole game,
right.
Going around basically a ghost house, haunted house ride thing.
Right.
Except there are lots of things that are trying to kill you. You use the Move controllers or the DualShock as your gun, and there are a lot of jump scares. It is creepy babies suddenly appearing on your cart in your face. There is one scene at the end of one of the levels that I won't scare for anybody, but if you are an arachnophobe, do not play this game at all. I genuinely felt like my skin tingling and tried to jump at one point.
Nice.
That's me. I mean,
yeah, it's all cheap scares. But I did find myself jumping and going, more than a few times. It's simple, fairly short, fairly easy. And I'm pretty sure that it was free for about 3 or 4 consecutive months because they just wanted to give away a free PSVR game. So if you've got PS Plus, you've almost certainly got it. It's worth a run through. It'll take you 2 hours, give or take. But it's a load of cheap jump scares, and if you're expecting anything relating to Until Dawn, it isn't.
Okay, fair enough.
I think that's me.
All right, Luffer.
Yeah, well, I haven't had a huge amount of time to actually play games this month because I've been working stupid hours on various shows. But one thing I have been playing, and I'm going to include it because it is technically a game and it is technically on the computer, is Mafia Scum on Facebook.
Okay, I've seen people on a forum playing this, but I have no idea what it seems to have. It seems almost a bit like a turn-based murder in the dark.
Yeah, it is. I mean, if there's another game it's like a party game you can play called Werewolf, which takes forever and ever and ever to play. It's similar to that. So in its simple, it's a private group that you set up with the people that are going to play it.
Yeah. And
it's all just text. There's no actual gameplay as such in terms of the coding. It's just a moderator runs the game, and then the various players that are taking part have different roles. So at its basic level, there are two teams. There's the town, and then there's the mafia. And depending on how many players there are, depends on how many different the people there are of each side. So say for example there were 10 players in a game, you might have 3 mafia and 7 town,
right?
And that makes up your 10 players. And then the goal of the game is for the town to kill the mafia and for the mafia to kill the town, and whoever's left at the end is the team that win. And you have day and night phases and various different roles. So a day, again, this depends on the moderator that's running it and where you're playing it. So a small game with sort of 10 players a day phase might last 48 hours. On a big game with hundreds of people on a forum, you might have a day phase that lasts for 2 weeks.
Right.
But the way we tend to do it is it's sort of a 48-hour roughly for the day phase, and then a 24-hour night phase, and then it starts again. The next day starts again.
Okay.
So during the day, you all have to discuss amongst yourselves your suspicions and your thoughts on who you think may be mafia and who may be town and what other roles there may be in play and who you think they are. And then during the day, you have to vote to lynch a player. And then at the end of the day, if a player has received enough votes for a lynch, they get killed and they're eliminated from the game. And if there are 10 players, then you might need 7 votes for a lynch to get a majority of players voting to lynch someone. So when that player reaches 7 votes, they get killed. And then if you get enough votes before the end of the day, so if everyone votes within the first half an hour to lynch someone, and the day ends straight away there, it doesn't carry on. That's just the end of the day. As soon as someone has enough votes for a lynch, that's the day over. And at that point, the moderator then comes in and says, or continues the story. It's very much in a kind of role-playing scenario. So you each have a role plus play, and then so the moderator will come in and then describe what happened that night or that evening and the lynch, and then reveal the identity of the person that was lynched, whether they were town or mafia, or whether they had a particular role as well. So there are various different roles you can have. You can have a cop, a doctor, a vigilante. There's numerous role blockers. There's numerous roles you can have that each player can be. So if you're a cop, then during the night phase, the cop can investigate a player. So you send a message to the moderator as the cop saying, I want to investigate X. And then the moderator will message you back and say, X is a town person. So then the policeman then knows that player doesn't want to be lynched because they're town.
Yeah.
And then the doctor, if you're a doctor, the doctor can message the moderator and say, I want to protect a player. So you can protect a certain player. So if you're the doctor, you might say, I'm going to protect player B. And then if the mafia try and kill player B at night, then the doctor can protect them and they won't die.
Right. But do other people find out that person, they've attempted the murder on that person?
No, they don't.
Okay.
All they'll find out is they'll know they can assume they were successful because the next day when they wake up, the moderator will come in and start the second day and say, no one got killed last night. And then the doctor will think, okay, so I tried to save B and B didn't die, so I must have saved him, sort of thing.
Sure. And so I see that obviously the doctor presumably could then, or the cop could then give away some of what they learned, but if they do too much, then the suspicion's on them for being town. And as a result, the cop can learn. I mean, the cop might investigate someone and find out that they're mafia, and then the next day the cop could come straight into the group and say, "Oh, I'm the cop, and I investigated X last night, and he's mafia, so we all need to kill him." And everyone's going to go,
Yeah, you were lying, aren't you?
Yeah.
So you have to be very careful about how you do things. And there's lots of different roles. The vigilante role, so the vigilante can kill someone, he's like a rogue person in the town that can kill anyone at night without a vote. And it's very, very interesting. Yeah, there's a wannabe who's actually not a mafia but wants to be mafia. So he's trying to get himself lynched because not lynched. He's trying to get himself killed by the mafia.
Right.
Because if the mafia try and kill the wannabe at night, then instead of dying, he gets converted to mafia, and then the mafia have an extra player. So the mafia are trying to work out if there is a wannabe, so they can try and kill him. It's a great game. It's really good.
Yeah, it sounds good, but very time consuming.
It's quite time. It's a sort of game you can play in your tea break or while you're doing other things, because you can just read the messages when you've got 5 minutes and then write a message back and cast your votes. But on the most recent game I'm playing, I was lynched on the first day, so I didn't really get much of a shot in. But they're very good. It's well worth, if you're into that sort of thing, it's worth finding a group to try and have a game.
Yeah, that sounds good.
The other game I've been playing is Euro Truck Simulator on Steam in VR. I've had Euro Truck for years and years and years, but I've never played it in VR until recently, and that in itself is quite incredible. But I also there is a beta. So in Steam VR, if you go into the settings in Steam, you can select which executable to run, and one of them is an Oculus or a Vive beta that you can run. So you can play it natively in the beta fork. So there's that, and then I also installed the Pro Mods modification, which is a map mod, which adds loads more locations, loads more roads, loads more towns, better graphics, different vehicles. It's huge. So I've been playing a lot of that, and that's very good. A lot of fun. If you like driving trucks around.
I'll have to give that a go.
Hours on end.
If someone produces a VR mod for Farming Simulator, I'll never have to leave the house again.
Oh, no.
So yeah, that kind of sums up what I've been playing since the last podcast. Just the two things, really.
Fine. So that just leaves me then. So previously on Yakuza 5, and I'll try and be brief, seeing as the only person who's interested in listening to this is Kendrick, and he's not on today. So previously I was stuck in the mountain as Sajima, playing Monster Hunter, only with bears instead of monsters. So I finished all that, moved on. There's a chapter as Haruka, who is Kiryu's adopted daughter, who is now all grown up. She's now 16 and she's going to become an idol, and so the whole of her chapter pretty much is just Japanese teen idol rhythm games, which is odd. I mean, that kind of thing was always in Yakuza, but not being forced upon you as an entire chapter. And it was okay, the story was fine, but I still absolutely can't get PlayStation button prompts correct, because they're all QTEs, the whole thing. And after all these years, I still don't know which shape is which button at all. I just it won't go in my head and stay there, and it certainly isn't any use to me when you're under pressure and have to press things at a certain time. So that was quite difficult, but I muddled through. Moved on after that. There's a chapter with a guy called Shinada, and he is a disgraced former baseball pro, and his story ends up being linked in with everyone else's, but it was so dull. I mean, him himself as a character is kind of fine, but the story, it's all just baseball and baseball chat and baseball this and bit of baseball practice and old baseball friends and baseball, just baseball, which is boring. But anyway, finally after that, everybody came together for the now traditional Yakuza shirtless fighting on a helipad on the top of a big building, as you do, and there was a bit more after that, but that's spoilers. So that's it anyway. So I finished it. It was fantastic, and I'm really itching now to start Yakuza 0, which, despite what I said last time, it appears I don't own. I was convinced I bought it ages ago, but I don't own it, so I need to get hold of a copy of that. But yeah, it was all pretty good. So as well as that, I've been playing a set of games called Faerun Collection. So Faerun 1 I originally had on the 3DS, and it's a kind of Ys style game with a bit of Zelda-y type stuff. So you have a map with a relatively small screen on it, and there's baddies wandering around. You bump into baddies to fight them. There's no like strike button or anything. You literally just walk into them, and if they're levels below you, then they die, and if they're the same or slightly higher than you, then they die, and you get some XP. Get enough XP and you level up. If they are a much higher level than you, then you don't get any XP. You don't kill them. You just take a load of damage. That's pretty much the combat. So each area you go into, the baddies obviously get progressively harder, so you're directed which way to go by where the baddies are that you can kill next. And there's some puzzles and stuff, so there's some block pushing and some finding items and using various items and stuff like that. There's a lot of looking around for markings on the floor, so looking for secret areas like the shadows where there might be a door, or there's a bit of grass that's out of place, or something you might be able to push out of the way. There's an awful lot of that kind of thing. And it's all quite cute and Japanesey, and the guy that does it, I think again it's mostly one person who's developed the whole game, or pretty much the whole series. He calls himself Skipmore, and he's got a few other games that are in a similar graphical style but slightly different genres. So I've played a few of those as well in the past, and they're all kind of like not too complicated, quite cheap, not too long, but fun. So anyway, so I played Fairwin 1 back on the 3DS ages ago. Replayed it again in this collection, but also in the collection's Fairwin 2, which is literally Fairwin 1 but more. So it's much bigger. There's the areas are much bigger. There's more puzzles in it. It's like 6 or 7 hours long instead of 2 hours long. There's a bit more story in it. So it's more of the same, but a lot more of the same. And that was good. That was fun as well. There's a third main game on there as well called Fairwin Origin, which appears to be kind of like a prototype of the original game. So it's in there as a sort of bonus, sort of, I suppose. But it's much like Fairwin, only there's only like 12 screens. It takes about 20 minutes to complete. But it's as if that's where the idea for the other Fairwin games came from. So there's that. And then finally, once you've completed all those 3 games, you get a 4th game unlocked called Fairwin Blast, which is looks a lot like Poppin' Twin B, like the vertically scrolling shooter. And all the baddies in it are baddies from the other Fairwin games. So the bosses from the other Fairwin games are all in there as kind of major bosses. But it's really short. I mean, it's like 10 or 15 minutes long, the whole game. It's like one level, 3 bosses or 4 bosses, and that's it. And it's more of a score attack thing, really. But it's quite good. It's a shame they didn't turn it into a longer game with proper levels and then a boss at the end of each one. But that was fun. The whole collection's about £8 on the Switch at the moment. I think it's probably also on other platforms as well. But yeah, I mean, it's nothing fantastic, but it was good. Played through the whole lot in a weekend. Enjoyed it. So the other main thing I've been playing is Detective Pikachu, which, despite not being 8 years old, I'm finding quite good. It's not quite Phoenix Wright with Pokemon that some people were perhaps expecting, because that's what it looks like. But instead, it's more a talk to everyone and look at everything game. So you walk around and you chat to everyone, and you collect testimony and evidence from people, and it's followed by small puzzles where you collate and you present the evidence. Okay, and then there's the odd QTE where you have to press A at the right time or mash A until something happens. So Pikachu's fallen out of a tree, you press A and then you catch him, and that's pretty much it. So the plot is you're a guy called Tim, and he's arrived in Rhyme City to figure out why his dad, who's a detective, disappeared 2 months ago. And straight away you meet Pikachu, who somehow can talk, but only you can understand him. And it turns out that he was your dad's partner, but he's lost most of his memory. So he remembers your dad, but he doesn't remember why. He doesn't remember why he can suddenly start speaking, nor where your dad's gone. And he acts as a guide and as a conversation foil, and as the source of some of the humour. And he's also able to talk to other Pokemon and get their testimony. And as the story progresses, you solve a number of related cases, and most of them are involving Pokemon that went bad, for mainly for the same reason. But and then you expose the real bad guys in a proper, like, Miss Marple style, collect everyone together into one room and then point the finger way. You pretty much literally go, it was you, and then point at them, and then you explain why, by collecting your evidence together. It's quite good. So it's pretty light-hearted. there's not really any murders or anything like that in it, or at least not yet. And it's not very difficult. Not least because you don't seem to be able to do anything in order to fail. So if you mess up the puzzles, you just keep doing it over and over again. You choose the wrong testimony or evidence, and you just do it again. If you mess up one of the QTEs, you just get a different scene play out instead. But ultimately, the outcome is the same. But then it's obviously aimed at people younger than me, so that's probably fine. I'm pretty sure that I solved the big mystery of actually what happened to Tim's dad before the game's opening sequence had even finished. So I'm not sure it was that big a mystery. It did seem blatantly obvious to me. But the story of how Tim comes to get to the same conclusion. So that's quite interesting. I think I'm about 2/3 of the way through, going off how long it's supposed to take to complete and how long I've got so far. So I've got a few hours left in it yet. But now I'm enjoying it. It's not really Pokemon. It's not really Phoenix Wright. It's not really a point-and-click adventure. It's a kind of interactive story with Pokemon in it and some minor puzzles and occasionally some jigsaws. But yeah, it's good. And I got the massive Detective Pikachu amiibo as well, although I've not checked to actually see what that does yet. And that's a really it's like about 8 or 9 inches high and weighs about a ton. So I'm a bit concerned because obviously you're playing this on the 3DS, and the bottom screen on the 3DS is where you stick the amiibo, and I'm a bit concerned that I'm going to smash the screen because it weighs so much. But yeah, so that's that, and that's pretty much everything I've been playing. So then we have a couple of listener questions before we finish, if we would like to answer those. So, Harmont says, the best news ever was announced today, although I think this was yesterday, or several days ago, depending when you're listening. Yakuza 3, 4 and 5 coming to the PlayStation 4. Discuss. Well, I am disgusted that this is happening because I've just finished 5 and having to slum it on a PlayStation 3 in order to do so. And if I'd have known this was coming, I wouldn't have bothered.
I have never played any of the Yakuza games, I have to say.
Yeah.
Likewise.
It seems to be it's one that I keep looking at and thinking I would probably like that, but then I watch a video and it all goes weird.
There's a lot of going weird in them, yeah, and Kendrick can tell you an awful lot more than I can because I tend to not do all of the side quests and nonsense. I do a bit of them and then think, no, I'm not going to bother spending 15 hours just doing karaoke.
I like that it has bears.
Only in 5 so far as I'm aware. But you do actually have a fist fight with a bear. So, but what is interesting about them all coming, these 3 now coming to the PlayStation 4, is it now means that essentially Yakuza 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 will be available on the PlayStation 4.
So are they coming individually or are they going to be available as a bundle?
That I don't know. I also don't know whether they're being properly remastered or whether they're just pretty much just upscaling them and bunging them out. I'm not sure. So, but either way, I think I would have preferred to have played them all on the PlayStation 4 instead of the PlayStation 3. I mean, it doesn't really matter, I suppose. But yeah, I don't know if I'd play through them all again. But who knows? So yeah, so it's quite good news, especially for people who haven't played the others. But they are the only 3 I've played. So I don't know.
Certainly a lot of gameplay hours if you got all 3 of them.
It is, because I mean, each one, if you're just going through the story, each one is probably about 25 hours, 30 hours, something like that. But there are so many side stories and so many attractions and other things you could do, like just go and play Outrun for hours if you want instead. So yeah, there's a lot there. And I can't imagine the 3, 4 and 5 are going to be full price unless they all come as one package. But even then, so yeah, it's good. It's nice to see it finally being accepted over in the West as well, because when 4 came out, I think they were considering not bringing 5 out over here at all. But after 5 came out, and then 0's done really well, 6 has done incredibly well. It's obviously found a market over here now. So,
could you play through the first couple of Silent Hill games for me? Because I would quite like them to come on the PS4.
I can't play Silent Hill games. No, I wouldn't play those.
God damn it. See, that's why they're not coming out the PS4.
Yeah, we'll stop making them so scary. I can't play horror games at all. They're awful. The only ones I've played that I've managed to not wet myself the entire game are Resident Evil 4 on the Wii because that wasn't really scary. There were a few jump scares, but it wasn't properly creepy scary like the other Resident Evil games. And Dead Space Extraction.
That was quite scary.
Yeah, but it wasn't as scary as Dead Space.
Don't play Until Dawn Rush of Blood.
No, well there you go. See, that was why I was asking.
Don't play Chew on the Grudge on the Wii.
No, I've seen that.
Oh, that gave me nightmares. That one did.
Yeah, I remember when Zombie U first came out, and there was the demo on the Wii U, and I went into it and go, yeah, it's fine. It's just zombies. It'll be fine. And on the demo, you go into the you fall through a floor and end up in a kid's nursery, and then the lights go out and the static on the screen, and I just went, nope, not playing that anymore. So I never.
What about Luigi's Haunted Mansion?
Oh, that's fine. That's not scary.
Well, the porcupines in Barbie's Horse Adventures were quite scary as well.
The whole game was quite scary, though, to be fair. Yeah, it had a woman in it, so it wasn't very historically accurate. So.
No, that's true.
No. So our other question then. We kind of touched on it before, but Thermal Satsuma says E3 is coming up in a few weeks. What are your predictions or hopes for what might be announced?
Yay.
I
don't really know. Something good on Switch. Mm-hmm. Maybe a new trailer for Shenmue HD. That'd be nice.
That's probably quite likely, but I don't think that would be a necessity now, would it? Now we know it's coming out.
No, but it would make me get all giddy.
Oh, we don't want that.
And E3 is for making me giddy.
Okay.
Half-Life 3 for me.
That's never happening. Although apparently Valve are now making games again. Although it turns out it's just another card game or something, isn't it, they're making? I can't remember.
I did hear that there was... I just reminded myself of this, actually, that there is a team working on a Half-Life 3. They're basically... Some people that used to work at Valve have got the outline of what the plot of the game was supposed to be years ago. Mm-hmm. And they've teamed up with some people, and they're kind of making their own vision of what Half-Life 3 would have been if it had come out.
Didn't the story writer release the story as like a document on GitHub or something about a year ago?
That rings a bell.
That.
Yeah, it's never being made, so we'll just do this.
Well, Valve are making games again because they've just bought Campo Santo.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Oh, I'd quite like to see some... I was about to say some more footage, but actually just some footage from Metroid Prime 4. That would be good. Yeah. And I'm looking forward to seeing a bit of Smash Brothers as well.
I'm not too fussed with Smash Brothers. Metroid Prime 4, yeah. To be honest, I'd quite like to see the next Pokemon game. So if the rumours of... see this about Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Pokemon Let's Go Eevee?
Yeah.
All kinds of rumours that they're both remakes of Pokemon Yellow, but like possibly... I don't know. There's a lot of confusion that first of all, it might all be nonsense and might not even exist. Then there's the fact that it might exist but is actually for the 3DS. Then there's the fact that it might exist, be for the Switch, but not actually be a proper Pokemon role-playing game at all, but be something entirely different, like Detective Pikachu or Pokemon Picross or something else. Who knows? But if I mean, we know it's coming because they've said, but if they do actually make a proper Pokemon game for the Switch, I'd definitely be up for seeing some of that, I think.
Yeah, they were saying that graphically they're expecting to be somewhere between the 3DS versions and Pokken Tournament. Pokken Tournament is actually surprisingly pretty for what it is. I think... I mean, I really haven't put any time into Pokemon since Ruby and Sapphire. Simply because, it's the same game. It would be nice to see a new generation of it coming out with, maybe some new mechanics as well. So,
well, I think they have done that since Ruby and Sapphire. I don't think from generation to generation there are massive jumps, but if you skip a few, then there's definitely. So from Ruby or Sapphire to Pokemon Sun and Moon, there's a fair jump, but from perhaps from yellow to gold, or from gold to ruby or whatever, it's not quite the same leap. But I'd quite like to do that. Animal Crossing, maybe that would be good.
I'd quite like to see more from Beyond Good and Evil 2.
I think that's likely. There's going to be something shown, isn't there?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm looking forward to, certainly. And maybe on the hardware front, something VR related for Xbox, Microsoft.
I would like Microsoft to make a game of some description.
What was the last thing they made? Was it Forza 7? Was that? That's
A proper Sea of Thieves.
Oh, I suppose. Yeah, I kind of forget that's yeah.
Well, and State of Decay 2, which came out 2 days ago.
Okay, was that any good?
It's not reviewing terribly well.
No, neither did Sea of Thieves. So it'd be interesting to see if Crackdown still exists.
Sea of Thieves came out the stable and landed flat in its face, really.
Yeah.
I think
to be fair, it was broken when it came out, wasn't it? And the servers are all dead. So
spectacularly.
Yeah. If people can't play it straight away, that'll be it, and it's gone.
I did attempt to play Sea of Thieves. I got over the motion sickness I was getting from just looking at the map screen, and spawned and stepped onto a ship, and this kid leapt out of nowhere and shot me in the back of the head, and then I thought, okay, and gave up. So yeah, I'm too old for Sea of Thieves.
Yeah. Sorry, Luffer, you were going to say?
Yeah, do you think we're due a GTA 6 announcement yet?
No, not until quite some time after
You stop making
Red Dead
money?
Redemption 2 is out, I would have thought.
Oh, that's true. I forgot about that because it's not coming on PC.
So it doesn't
It's
exist.
dead to me.
Yeah.
I'm quite hyped for
hang
that.
on, how will that work then if it's not coming out on the PC? Because it is coming out on the Xbox One, right?
Mhm.
And I thought the point now with the Xbox One games is that all the Xbox One games will also be available on the PC.
Yes, they are.
Oh, maybe it is. The first one didn't.
I mean, it might not be on Steam, but it'll be on whatever the Windows Xbox Store thing or whatever is, perhaps, maybe?
The first what?
The first?
The first what?
The first one wasn't.
Oh,
The
the
first
first, the first Red Dead Redemption.
Oh, okay. Well, that's not a Microsoft game.
No, that's true.
It's only first-party stuff.
Oh, is it only first party?
Yeah.
Oh, that's why there isn't anything on the PC then.
No, they don't have any control
don't make
over what Rockstar does. But yeah, anything that's published by Microsoft is now released on Windows Game Store and the Xbox at the same time.
Oh, so
Having
it's 2
said
games a year.
that,
Right.
at the point where Red Dead Redemption pointedly didn't come out on PC, whereas the Grand Theft Auto games did, Rockstar at that point were still operating as separate divisions, whereas now they have kind of amalgamated all the Rockstar North and Rockstar LA and whatever into one big giant distributed studio. So it may get a late release on PC the way Grand Theft Auto 5 did.
There can't be as much work to be done to put it on the PC as there used to be, surely.
As far as I'm aware, if they're developing for Xbox, which they are, it's just a matter of choosing a different target.
Yeah.
Yeah. And well, GTA 5, by all accounts, they actually did a pretty decent PC port. I've not actually played it, but the GTA 4 PC port was horribly badly optimized and needed an absolute beast of a machine to run it stably.
And
So
still
now
does.
that they're all running on the same the same hardware, the consoles and PC, then yeah, I'd imagine it's pretty straightforward, really.
It's just a Switch.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Going back to E3 announcements then, do we think it's likely that they might announce or possibly pre-announce any new hardware of any kind?
No.
Well, I just think maybe some sort of HoloLens VR thing for the Xbox, potentially.
So the Xbox One X has been out about 6 months, so that's not going to happen. Potentially, Sony can say PS4 Pro 2, which is a bit slimmer. They could potentially even give it a bit of extra beef so they can take their most powerful console crown back. But they have explicitly said there won't be any hardware announcements, but they could just be trying to throw people off the scent.
Or maybe it will be software. There'll be a PlayStation 4 emulator software available for the PC.
Yeah.
Maybe. Okay. So I think that's it then, everything. So thank you very much, everybody, for listening. And if you would like to get in contact with us, you can email us at podcast@ugvm.org.uk or follow us and send us messages and abuse on Twitter at UGVM Podcast. You can also, if you really, really must, follow me on Twitter at deKay01. And if anybody else would like to be followed or stalked in any other way, Luffer?
At Lufferov on YouTube, Twitter, and other places.
Yeah,
That's our use.
Choobs?
At John M. Dow on Twitter and various other places as well.
And Zoe?
At Zamoniac in all the places.
Good.
All
Okay.
the damn places.
Yeah, you haven't got another album out yet that you need to plug or anything?
No, afraid not.
Oh, okay,
Oh,
never mind.
which reminds me.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
your album is now on rotation in my car with Neutral Milk Hotel.
Oh, that's very exciting.
Yeah. It has graduated from the hi-fi to the car. This is a good thing.
Oh, excellent. Well, I'm very complimented and touched by this.
I can put it on in my car if you want, but I'll sit in the house.
How very rude.
Okay, so thanks for listening, and thanks to everybody for joining me, and hopefully speak to you all again soon. Goodbye.
Bye.
Farewell.
See ya.